From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Snow days, bitter cold temperatures. They might mean a day off from school.
We had to shovel the drifts because we couldn't open the doors to let the sheep out to eat.
Not a day off from work in farm country. See how these students are helping keep their operation going in North Dakota. As some farmers there work to rescue cattle, others are forced to dump milk amid feet of snow. Other farmers trying to get planting season started in earnest amid wet and snowy conditions. That's right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. With insurance planting deadlines arriving, farmers are gearing up to put the 2022 crop in the ground. But getting fieldwork started remains challenging amid late season snows, cool temperatures, rain, and in some cases, drought. On Monday, farmers in portions of northern Indiana woke up to find snow on the ground, further delaying their planting plans. Those challenges showing up in the latest crop progress report from USDA. As of this weekend, 4% of the corn crop was in the ground. That's 2% behind the 5-year average. Texas continues to lead the way with 64% planted, and some soybeans getting planted as well, with 1% now in the ground. That's 1% behind the 5-year average. The cotton crop also going in with 10% now planted. That's 1% ahead of average, and winter wheat conditions continue to suffer, with just 30% rated good to excellent. Last week, it was 32%. Uncertainty around planting and weather challenges helping to push grain prices higher to start the week. The May corn contract starting the week well over $8, soybeans over $17. Now, the last time we saw corn go over $8 was back in August of 2012, during the last drought when prices hit over $8.43. We're now about 35 cents away from those record prices on old crop corn. And Brian Splitt of agmarket.net says the market could go even higher, and he's not just talking about the front month contract.
I think we're seeing the fund manager look at the weather forecast, and it's no secret that a lot of producers would like to be out getting crop in the ground, but they're simply not. It is wet, it is cool, and as we look at the forecast coming out of the weekend, it looks like it's going to be more of the same with a couple breaks in between.
Splitt says we're also seeing some general buying in commodities right now. He says gold is up $20 an ounce, and silver also seeing strong buying, along with energies, including natural gas. For ranchers and dairy producers in North Dakota right now, it's about more than planting, but in some cases, a matter of life or death. Last week's blizzard, followed by bitter cold temperatures, as many producers worked around the clock to save livestock. After a reported 40 inches of snow fell in some areas, Trevor Steek and his family in North Dakota say they are putting in 14-hour days searching for calves and trying to keep them alive after roughly 2 feet of snow fell around his farm. The blizzard hitting right in the middle of calving season. Now, unfortunately, Steek says he's already lost some of his herd after finding some stuck in the snow. And dairy producers in North Dakota also facing issues. Dean and Rachel Karski are dairy producers west of Dickinson. They say the milkman was unable to get through the snow-packed roads to come get their product. Their area seeing well over 30 inches of snow, and they were forced to dump 11,000 pounds of milk with a value of over $2,700. Now, they say they still have plenty of milk left, and now that roads are cleared, the milkman will be able to get to them, but they say they can't start milking until the tanks that are currently filled are emptied because they simply can't afford it. And the threat remains for more snow in portions of the country, along with fire danger due to high winds. Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joins us with an update. Andrew.
Yeah, our attention today turns to high fire danger concerns once again across mainly the four corners of the U.S. here across the Southwest. We're also watching an active and cooler start and finish to this week across the Pacific Northwest, and it will eventually really warm up across the eastern half of the country, and that's going to lead to a more increase in rain chances as well. Let's dive in a little bit deeper on that fire weather concerns for today. Again, you notice the four corners there are really taking note there underneath the exceptional fire weather concerns for today. And we're going to see that area likely growing a little bit more in expansion than what you see here in the colored shaded areas. And really, it's all thanks to this jet stream that's going to continue to slowly work its way towards the east here. Notice that ridge building out across the second half of the eastern side of the country. It's going to allow a lot of warm weather. In fact, a lot of folks here are going to get summer-like temperatures here as we go throughout the start of this week and towards the end of this week as well. Meanwhile, that cooler air is going to begin to filter on in across the Pacific Northwest. Severe thunderstorm risk for today will be down across the northern half of the Texas Panhandle over towards Oklahoma as we go throughout today into tomorrow, all thanks to a dry line that will be spreading across parts of the southern plains. And those winds are at least good for something. How about flying a kite or two? Brent of Nazareth, Texas, in the southern panhandle of the state, showing what they did on Easter Sunday. I'll have more on your AgDay forecast coming up.
A fire destroyed a major food processing plant in Salinas, California, but the owner says they are already making plans to rebuild. The fire broke out last Wednesday night at Taylor Farms' primary food service processing facility. All the workers inside were able to get out safely. The company says at the time of the fire, the facility was closed for the winter season and workers were not producing on site. For now, processing and packaging are being moved to another of the company's facilities in Yuma, Arizona. The company's CEO, Bruce Taylor, telling one TV station the fire was caused by a welding maintenance accident by a contractor. He says it has plans to rebuild the facility by April of next year. As Shanghai begins to ease lockdowns in and around the city, workers there will have a lot of catching up to do as the port of Shanghai, which handled over 20% of Chinese freight traffic in 2021, is at a virtual standstill. On Friday, China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology said in a statement that it sent a task force to Shanghai to work on a plan to resume production at nearly 670 key manufacturers in the city. Now, it's reported food supplies stuck in shipping containers without access to refrigeration are rotting. An incoming cargo is now stuck at Shanghai marine terminals for an average of 8 days before it's transported elsewhere. That's a 75% increase since the recent round of lockdowns began. Meanwhile, cargo airlines have canceled all flights in and out of the city, and more than 90% of trucks supporting import and export deliveries are currently out of action. And a new effort to get Ukrainian ag commodities out of the country. Consulting firm APK Inform reporting Lithuania is ready to help Ukraine export current old crop grain. That word comes from the Minister of Communications and Transportation. He says the grain can be transported via rail through Poland to the port of Klaipėda. He says they have been cooperating with Ukraine for several weeks to make it happen. As we said, grain markets started the week strong. Could these high prices change planting decisions? We'll discuss that next. And later, we're off to North Dakota, where a snow day for these farm kids doesn't mean a day without learning in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator, it's not just any closing wheel. Reach your yield potential. Free shipping on all orders with coupon code AgDay.
More on the big market rally to start the week with corn futures moving to their highest levels in nearly 10 years. Here's more from the Trader with the CME.
Today in the grain market, we see green across the board. It's interesting that all three of the major grains really have their own issues, but they're all bullish. So soybeans did surge today. The lockdown in China is impacting these markets. We had a 34-cent rally today. We're comfortably above that $17 mark, really $1.40 off the low from just a few days ago. I think that Shanghai port has been closed. Plus soybean oil is up over 80 cents. There has been talk that it could even go to $1. That really is supporting the market. Certainly the NOPA report that the crush margins are at a new record. All those things collectively are big support for the soybean market. Corn is above $8 now. The fundamentals are bullish completely. There's more corn going into the ethanol once that ban was lifted. There's uncertainty about exports out of Ukraine. Also, farmers were selling corn lower in the market, and now that we've got above the $8, they kind of stopped selling. Now this week is a big rollover. Everything is going to be moving to the July contracts right now, so we'll be expecting that as the rest of the week goes on.
We're joined today by Joe Vaklovic with Standard Grain. Joe, we kind of hit that April 15th mark. We're past it now. We expect planters to be kind of rolling in earnest as the weather allows. What do we think about acreage? Any chance that one of these commodities can buy more acreage?
Well, I think first off on the weather front, we have had certainly a less than ideal start to the planting window in the Corn Belt. You've had some cold conditions, some wet conditions. That doesn't mean that things are going to be delayed to any material degree. We're not that far along yet. When it comes to acreage, the corn market and how it's acted relative to the soybean market and new crop contracts, the corn market is very much, I think, attempting to buy back some of the acres that USDA told us we lost in that March report. And part of the reason for the March report is so that farmers have time to adjust decisions afterward. I just don't know if that sort of shift back into corn acres versus intentions is even possible. I mean, given inputs and fertilizer costs in particular, I don't know if it's something that's possible, even though a lot of the farm budgets I've seen, even with the drastically higher fertilizer prices, the corn pencils better. There's still availability questions, and I just don't know if plans are going to change to any material degree. I'm not sure how accurate the March intentions report was to begin with, so it's still a wild card, but it's tough for me to believe that corn's going to buy back a material amount of acreage at this point in time, given the situation.
Joe, as we go forward over the next couple of weeks, what are the couple of key things that you're going to be looking for, watching for, to see whether or not these markets have any movement left?
Well, the trend has been higher, and it's been nonstop in the corn market. I mean, it feels like we post fresh contract highs just about every day. There are vulnerabilities. There's a lot of fund length. There's a lot of speculative length in the markets. I feel like it wouldn't take much of a headline or much of a breaking news story to result in some sort of big sell-off, even if it was short-lived. You know, to say break the corn market 50, 60 cents or even $1 at this point would probably not be incredibly difficult to do. We don't have huge trading volumes. You've got a lot of speculative money that if we're presented with a bearish headline, they just head for the exits. What is that bearish headline? I have no idea. I don't think a ceasefire happens in Ukraine anytime soon. It looks like we're going in the other direction, but you can't rule that out. I mean, something like a stock market collapse or, you know, something along those lines. There's definitely risk, but you probably need something to spark that selling pressure. We just haven't seen it yet.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on it with you. Appreciate it, Joe. Thank you as always for being here. We'll be back with more AgDay coming up in just a minute.
For more information about Standard Grain and its services, call Joe at 312-462-4438. Stay out in front with the consistent performance of Asgrow brand soybeans. Ask your dealer how much further you can grow when Asgrow leads the way.
Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joining us here, taking a look at precipitation throughout this week, or at least what we're expecting. And I know a lot of folks want to get out in the field and get started with planting, but that's not going to be possible everywhere.
No, not everywhere. You can see by this map, very colorful behind us here. More rain chances where we don't need it along the East Coast, but where some folks across the parts of the Pacific Northwest could use some of that moisture. It looks like it's going to show up for some of us, especially in Northern California. And let's go ahead and zoom in here on a few of these locations. And a closer look here at the East Coast, and you notice those yellows, even some oranges showing up here. This is total precipitation here throughout this whole entire week, where some locations could be picking up close to an inch of a rainfall, and where some parts of Northern California really could use some of this moisture. This is going to, of course, if this pans out, could enhance some mudslides as well that we'll have to keep our eyes on for the extreme western portion here of the Pacific Northwest, where we could be looking at anywhere from 1 to 3+ inches of rainfall over the course of the next several days. And there is a wintry side to this system as well. We could be looking at a lot of mountain snow for the Intermountain West, and unfortunately for the western half of the Dakotas as well. More snowfall, but the good news though about the snow across the western Dakotas is it's been really dry, and we really could use the moisture. Walking through this here on the April 19th Tuesday map here, I notice how we've got 2 areas of low pressure here. This dry line here, that's going to fuel some scattered showers and thunderstorms here from Texas, Oklahoma, as far north and west there. as the extreme southern portions there of Kansas. Meanwhile, remaining on the cool, chilly side here across the Great Lakes. High pressure will eventually build on in. After that, the cold front continues to work its way off to the east. And of course, again, where that dry line will set up, that's where we are watching the potential here for some stronger storms to develop, not only for today, but heading on into Wednesday as well. Oklahoma City, upwards of Wichita, maybe as far north as Kansas City. We'll have to watch for a few stronger storms that could bubble on up here as we head on into tomorrow. Walking through the future track precipitation here as we go throughout this afternoon. Again, we'll continue to deal with some wintry mixture across the New England seaboard. Meanwhile, again, that low pressure system, we'll just see wave after wave of low pressure is likely coming on board here for the Pacific Northwest, which will keep that area rather on the active side. And here's that low pressure system with that dry line, which again will keep the southern plains here on the active side here as we go throughout the start of this upcoming weekend, going forward into Wednesday as well. Luckily, though, there is a big warming trend for much of the country, at least the eastern half of the country, as we head on into the end of this week. Let's take a look at some locations where you live. Jamestown, New York, breezy. Snow showers, high getting up to 37 degrees. Going over to Hines, Minnesota, sun and clouds, 42. And as we go over to Keslow, Washington, showers, high nearing 50 degrees.
Up next, scientists say full-fat dairy may actually be good for you. We'll tell you about the latest research. And later, as a kid, snow days are great, but we'll meet some North Dakota kids trading their time and language for learning with livestock on the family farm in the country. Whole milk could soon be coming back to Pennsylvania's public schools. It comes after the state house passed a bill that would permit schools to serve whole milk and reduced fat milk to students. Right now, public schools are only allowed to serve 1% milk and fat-free milk. Two Republican lawmakers who introduced the bill say school milk consumption has been decreasing since 2012, when USDA started limiting what kind of milk could be served. The USDA's National School Lunch Program reimburses schools for meals that meet specific nutritional guidelines. The bill now goes to the Pennsylvania State Senate for consideration. A new study says a saturated fat in foods like butter and full-fat dairy may actually be good for you. The fat is called C15. A public health researcher and veterinary epidemiologist have started a company called Fatty 15. Now, she tells website Insider.com studies suggest more C15 in your diet may reduce risk of disease and improve health. She says since we can't produce C15 in our bodies, we need to get it from food, and that makes it an essential fatty acid similar to other fats such as omega-3. She says foods like butter, full-fat dairy, and some species of fish, algae, and mushrooms could help increase levels of C15, but more research is needed to determine how much is healthy. Rain or shine, livestock owners know there are no days off. Up next, we'll see why a day off from school doesn't mean a day off for these North Dakota farm kids. Last week, many students in Bismarck Public Schools were back doing virtual learning due to all of the snow. But for kids who live on farms and ranches, there are no snow days. Jody Kurzman of KFYR introduces us to a couple of kids doing some hands-on learning.
Lambing season is wrapping up at the Stadheim Ranch.
We have just a few left.
At the same time, calving is just getting started.
We've had just one calf, so.
Of course, none of that stops because of a blizzard. In fact, the weather means there's even more work to be done.
We had to shovel the drifts because we couldn't open the doors to let the sheep out to eat.
The blizzard has meant no school since Monday. That means there are a few extra sets of hands around the ranch.
I have to choose this lamb.
Something their parents don't take for granted.
So we got chilled down.
We couldn't do everything we do without them, so we are very blessed.
It is work these kids say they're happy to do.
I definitely enjoy it.
What's one thing you like about it?
Probably feeding.
Do you like being outside and helping with the animals?
Yeah, I
What
do.
do you like about it?
I like seeing the animals mostly.
It is hard work. Their parents hope will instill a good work ethic in their kids.
We tell them that they will thank us someday.
For now, she will treasure these moments and the extra family time, courtesy of Mother Nature. I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your news leader.
All right, thanks, Jody. And that's all the time we have this morning. Thanks for watching. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in the farm country.